Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. The rain had been falling since dawn, the kind that soaked through jackets and shoes and settled deep into your bones. Outside St. Mercy Hospital, the automatic glass doors slid open and shut again and again, letting out bursts of warm air mixed with the sharp smell of antiseptic. Nurses hurried past, doctors checked their watches, and security guards stood stiffly by the entrance, their eyes scanning the crowd like gatekeepers to another world. Right there on the wet concrete, a little girl stood clutching a worn pink backpack to her chest. Her shoes were too small, her jeans were damp at the hem, and her dark hair was plastered to her forehead by rain and tears. Her face was red from crying, and her voice trembled as she pulled at the sleeve of anyone who walked by. "Please," she sobbed. "Those men won't let my mommy in the hospital." Most people slowed for a second, uncomfortable, unsure what to do. Some offered sympathetic looks. A few bent down and asked where her father was, or if she was lost. But before she could answer, the security guards stepped closer, motioning people along, saying hospital policy didn't allow loitering at the entrance. The little girl shook her head desperately, tears spilling faster. Her mother was just across the driveway, standing beside a battered old car with its hood still warm from the drive. The woman's clothes were stained with blood that wasn't hers. Her hands shook as she pressed them together, begging the guards to let her through. She kept saying the same words over and over, her voice breaking each time. "My husband is inside. He was stabbed. Please, I just need to see him." But the guards didn't move. They pointed to the rules, to visiting hours, to procedures. One of them spoke in a tone that sounded practiced and tired, like he'd said the same thing 100 times already that day. "Ma'am, you need to calm down. You're causing a disturbance." The little girl watched all of this, her small body trembling. She ran back to her mother, wrapped her arms around her waist, and then turned again to the crowd. That's when she cried out louder than before, her voice cutting through the rain and the traffic noise. "Those men won't let my mommy in the hospital." At the far end of the parking lot, the sound of engines rolled in low and heavy, like distant thunder. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid. One by one, motorcycles came into view, chrome glinting under the gray sky, headlights glowing through the rain. The engines were loud, unmistakable, and they moved with purpose, lining up near the curb. Leather jackets, heavy boots, patches stitched proudly on their backs. The HELLS Angels. People stepped back instinctively. Some clutched their bags tighter. A nurse froze in place, her eyes wide. Even the security guards stiffened, hands moving closer to their radios. The bikers cut their engines almost in unison, and the sudden silence felt even louder than the roar that came before. One of them dismounted slowly. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his beard streaked with gray. His jacket was worn, creased from years on the road. He looked around calmly, then his eyes landed on the little girl. She was still crying, her chest hitching with each breath, her small fists clenched around the straps of her backpack. The biker took a step toward her, then stopped, lowering himself to one knee so he wouldn't tower over her. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice low and steady, surprisingly gentle. The girl hesitated. Everyone else held their breath. Then she pointed toward the guards, toward the hospital doors, toward her mother standing helplessly by the car. "They won't let my mommy in," she said through sobs. "My daddy's inside. He's hurt really bad." The biker followed her finger with his eyes. He saw the blood on the woman's clothes, the way she swayed on her feet like she might collapse at any moment. He stood up slowly, his jaw tightening. Behind him, more bikers dismounted. None of them spoke. They didn't need to. They had already seen enough. The lead biker walked toward the security guards. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply stopped a few feet away and looked at them, his expression calm but unyielding. "What's going on here?" he asked. One of the guards cleared his throat. "Sir, this is a hospital. Visiting hours are. She's his wife." The biker interrupted, nodding toward the woman. "And that's their kid. Man's fighting for his life in there, and you're telling them to wait outside in the rain." The guard shifted his weight. "Rules are rules. She's upset, and we can't have disturbances." The biker glanced back at his brothers. Dozens of eyes met his. Then he looked back at the guard. "You know," he said quietly, "we've ridden through storms worse than this. Buried friends, held strangers while they died. And every time, we learned one thing. When family needs to be together, you don't stand in the way." There was a long pause. The rain pattered on leather and concrete. People nearby pretended not to stare, but nobody moved. Another biker stepped forward, a massive man with arms like tree trunks and tattoos climbing up his neck. "We're not here to cause trouble," he said. "We're here because someone called us and said a good man got hurt." The woman by the car looked up, confused. "Called you?" she whispered. The first biker turned to her and nodded. "Your husband helped one of our guys last winter. Pulled him out of a wreck on the highway. Stayed with him till the ambulance came. Never asked for anything." The woman's eyes widened. She hadn't known that. Her husband had never mentioned it. He never talked about the good things he did. He just did them. The biker turned back to the guards. "So here's how this is going to go. You're going to let this mother see her husband, and you're going to let that little girl stop crying, and then we're all going to stand right here quietly, like everyone else, and wait." The guard swallowed. He glanced at his partner, then at the crowd, then at the row of motorcycles. Finally, he stepped aside. "Ma'am," he said, forcing a professional tone, "you can go in." The woman let out a sound that was half sob, half prayer. She grabbed her daughter's hand, but before they could move, the little girl broke free and ran back to the biker. She wrapped her arms around his leg like she'd known him her whole life. "Thank you," she said softly. He smiled, resting a massive hand gently on her head. "Anytime, kiddo." They watched as the mother and child disappeared through the sliding doors. The crowd slowly began to breathe again. Nurses returned to their tasks. The guards resumed their posts, though their shoulders were a little less rigid now. The bikers didn't leave. They stood there in the rain, some leaning against their bikes, others with arms crossed, heads bowed slightly. Minutes stretched into hours. No one complained. No one spoke above a whisper. Inside the hospital, the woman held her husband's hand, her tears dripping onto the sheets. She told him their daughter was safe. She told him he wasn't alone. And when the doctors came with updates, she wasn't standing in the rain anymore. She was where she belonged. Late that evening, the automatic doors opened again. The woman stepped out, her eyes red but her posture stronger. She scanned the parking lot, unsure of what she'd find. They were still there, every single one of them. She walked up slowly, her daughter at her side. "He's going to make it," she said, her voice trembling with relief. A ripple moved through the group. Quiet nods. Soft One biker removed his helmet and pressed it to his chest for a moment. "That's good," the leader said simply. The little girl stepped forward again, this time holding something in her hand. A small, folded piece of paper, crayon scribbles visible on the outside. She held it up shyly. "I made you a picture," she said. He took it carefully, like it was something precious. Inside was a drawing of motorcycles, a hospital, and stick figures holding hands under a big, crooked heart. He swallowed hard. "I'll keep it," he promised. As the rain finally stopped and the sky began to clear, the engine started up once more. One by one, the bikers mounted their rides. Before they left, the leader looked back at the mother and child. "Take care of him," he said. "He's one of the good ones." Then they were gone, the sound of engines fading into the distance, leaving behind nothing but wet pavement and a story nobody there would ever forget. And that little girl, she went home that night believing something important, that even when the world feels cold and unfair, help can come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, the loudest engines carry the biggest hearts.